Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Qichao. I work in the University of Oslo. Today, I'm very glad to be here to share some updates of Glicol, the computer music language I developed during my PhD study in the University of Oslo. So last year, I presented Glicol online. There was a paper and there was also a video, and you can still check them. I think most of the contents are still valid today. But today, since I guess most of you are not familiar with Glicol, I would like to start from scratch. So I will start from the name Glicol. It basically means graph-oriented live coding language. And the easiest way to try Glicol is to go to this website, glicol.org. And you can just go to the website and you can click this one button, get some sound immediately. And you can click get started. There's a tutorial, and tomorrow I will have a workshop. So if you're interested, you can come. I think here I will just mention a very simple example. This third one. This is the amplitude modulation. So as you can see, all the keynotes here, you can just create different audio notes with the keywords, and just write the whole audio graph with text. It's not functional style, no object style. So you can, for example, create a sine oscillator node and connect it with a multiplication node. And on the second line, you create a sine oscillator node connected with a multiplication node and add node to map it to a certain range, and use this reference syntax to control a multiplication node. And so this will create an amplitude modulation effect. And under the hood, Glicol is written in Rust and combines to a WebAssembly file. It runs in audio workload, and it communicates with the browser main thread with shared array buffers, thanks to the wonderful work of Paul. And I think in old browsers like Safari, and it just use post message, and yeah, it also supports some older browsers. So the question is how what has changed in this WebAssembly file. So this year I decided to borrow some idea from famous computer music language SuperCollider. I tried to separate the audio part and the language part of Glicol. So for the audio part, Glicol is built on top of a Rust library called DSP graph. And this is how the API of DSP graph look in Rust. It's quite low level. You have to create a graph, and you have to create a processor, and you have to develop your own node and manage it manually. So during my development of Glicol, I actually developed a lot of audio nodes and finally I decided to integrate it into the DSP graph crate. So I come up with this Glicol Sings audio library in Rust. And as you can see, the API is much more simpler. And here on the first slide, you basically import everything you need. And the main program is that you create the audio context. So it's very similar to Web Audio API. You can create a mono node, or you can create a stereo or even multi-channel node. And I forgot to mention that on the first slide, you can use constant generic feature of Rust to make it any customizable buffer size. And then you connect different nodes. For example, here I connect the one single node I create to the destination of the context. And you can always call the next block to get the audio buffer. And usually we put it into a callback function, right? And when you want to make some update, you just send a message to the node, which is quite intuitive. And then you can continue to call the next block method. So actually, using this Rust audio library, I create a VST plugin using eGUI and this Glicol Sings audio library. And actually, I don't need to play the video. I can just do it in Ableton Live. So I use this built-in sample, built-in loops, and I can drag the plugin here. So that's the reverb plugin created with Glicol Sings. Okay. So the audio engine is one thing, and the other thing is the parser. Glicol parser is also modularized and improve the error handling. For example, if you have some errors in your code, and it will just report you in the browser console. So the parser will just convert the code into the AST abstract syntax tree, which is just a hash map in Rust. You can roughly understand it as a dictionary in Python or object in JavaScript. And then based on this AST, we can create an audio graph using Glicol things. And here's one thing that is really important. So we use different algorithms to determine when to add a new node, when to update a node, or when to remove some node. I think that's the most important thing of Glicol. So with this mechanism, we can have what you see is what you get paradigm, which is basically declarative live coding or declarative programming. So actually, you can do live coding in VST. So same thing, I can just drag the audio loop here. I can create a kind of VST here. And as you can see, I use the input as a reference, and I can control the amplitude using the built-in node of Glicol. And this year, you can mix JavaScript with Glicol. And actually, there are some tutorials on the Glicol website. Here, for example, here, you can put your JavaScript code inside these symbols. And this S function is just a built-in function that will pick some random sample. So it's quite useful in live coding. And the other one is that when there's a return value from JavaScript, it will become part of the Glicol code and sent to the audio engine. And if there's no return value, it will just run do the behavior of JavaScript and just become an empty string in the Glicol code. So with this code, it will just generate a lot of sine wave. And I can just use Shift Enter to convert it to a real code so that you can see. Yeah, that's how it sounds like. It's like it's a 100 sine oscillator with random pitch and random amplitude playing together. And I think one of the most useful case for this kind of mix JavaScript is to use it for visual effects. So I can just play this video. I play some music, and I use Hydra.js for the visual. So on the top, it's Glicol code. On the bottom, it's Glicol. It's a Hydra code. And the other thing is that you can now create meta node in real time with write.rs syntax. Maybe you are not familiar with it, but it's really intuitive to learn. For example, we can just look at here, this example. With this meta keyword, you can create this meta node, and this is just identical to Cyan 440. So it's a very useful tool to show the students how everything works under the hood. And I can just play it. It's just a Cyan 440 tone. And for example, you can also write. I guess here it's a filter, or I think it's a sawtooth wave. Let's just play it. Yeah, it's a filter. It's a one-pole filter, filtering a sawtooth wave. Yeah. And this year, I also make some changes to Glicol so that you can use it as the NPM package, and which is the focus of today's presentation. So if you go to glicol.js.org, you will see this library. And as one of you asked before, this low-level technology can now be used for beginners. For example, it can compete with Tone.js, and it's way faster and lightweight. And for example, I could just show the amplitude modulation example again. So to use it, you just import it, import the Glicol and just write this line of code. And when you want some update, you just call this method again, and it will just handle everything. It will handle the whole audio graph for you. And actually, on the website, you can see this. There's a full project in the stack breeze. I think it takes some time for loading. And we can just see the project is really simple. It's just the HTML file, HTML index, and it's just some GUI here, and the main.js, 3 lines of code to import Glicol, and it's all bind to the GUI. Well, I guess I should only open it with my own account. Yeah, here it is. When I click play, I can use the GUI to control everything. And there are some other examples, for example, using samples. And you can also do some mixing here. And you can also create some kind of envelope. Yeah, so when I click play, then gate on. So you will just follow this ADSR phase, and you can use it to create synthesizer, for example. And with this npm package, now Glicol can pair with, for example, Studio, which is the web version of title cycles. So you can use patterns to select different samples, for example, or control the volume, and you can even change the BPM while you are playing. I just play the demo. So to sum it up, you can now play Glicol in browser or as VST. Glicol RS is a complete Rust audio library. You can use it for different kinds of development, and Glicol JS is now shipped as an npm package. So if you are interested, just check the GitHub repository, and don't forget to go to the workshop tomorrow. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Qichao. So are there any questions? I have one question in the meantime. So you're presenting new features. Just wonder the collaborative aspect that you've been presenting at WAC in previous years.
Yeah. For that part, actually, I forget to mention. This year, I actually come up with a new mechanism for ID with your friend. And you can just start to collaborate, just like Google Doc. And let's just write some code. And when one of the collaborate press command enter, he or she will be marked as ready. But we should wait for all the collaborators marked ready, then the sound will be played. So that's the new mechanism. And it's very closely related to the low-level audio engine. So that's why I say it's when I redesign everything, it's a great opportunity for me to rethink the collaboration. Yeah, thanks.
What can we expect tomorrow in the workshop?
Yeah, thanks. Oh.
Yeah.
So sorry.
So what can we expect tomorrow in the workshop? And also, are you performing today?
Yeah, I'm going to perform in half an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for the workshop tomorrow, I guess I will first introduce how to use Glicol. So I will just go through the examples here, and I will just show some demos. Maybe I can just show one of them now to attract you as a kind of gimmick. Let's I can do some live coding right now. Yeah, so I will just show off and to you to how to use Glicol, and maybe some of you are interested in how to use it as a web audio library. I can also show you that, and perhaps if we have some time left, I can also show how to contribute to Glicol. Yeah.
Great. So thank you very much. Yeah. Let's give another round of applause. Thank you.